welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, with liver fluke costing Irish farmers €90 million every year, I'm joined by Teagasc Advisor Gary Fisher to get an insight into fluke treatment on farm, when to dose and what products to treat each stage. Gary, you're very welcome to the podcast. It's been a great end to the grazing season with a lot of cattle only housed recently.
It's been a great year so far, especially farmers here in the northwest. We've had an extended grazing season with a very mild back end. Its temperatures are up. Rainfall was down now for July, August, and September, especially in the northwest here. But in October, it came in extremely wet. A lot of cattle housed probably in the last 3 weeks, but we had a great grazing season.
I suppose fluke is a parasite on many farms. Why is it so prevalent?
Well, I suppose, fluke, and I suppose it's a complicated parasite in terms, and it is prevalent, especially now, especially in the northwest and west of the country. Most years, and even this year, recently, the department published a liver fluke forecast, which was published there on the 21st of November, or 25th of November, I should say. And, farmers should actually look it up. But basically, farmers, especially in the northwest of the country, it is very prevalent, and there's two things that liver fluke need in terms of it needs moisture and it needs high temperatures, or temperatures above 10 degrees, and it needs what's known as an intermediate host known as a mud snail to complete the life cycle. But we can get into that in more detail later on. But look, liver fluke is prevalent up in this part of the world, and I know we'll be maybe talking later on about the BPS scheme and animal health reports, etc., that you get from your meat factories and that. But it is a parasite that is prevalent, even though that some of the reports that farmers are getting back saying it isn't an issue, but it is an issue on a lot of farms.
Gary, you mentioned there the farmers were sampling for BPS and they would have had to have the results back to the lab by the 1st of October. If farmers got a negative liver fluke result, what would you advise?
Look, unfortunately, this year the fecal results back for the BPS had to be in by the 1st of October. Now, look, farmers need to think of the life cycle of the liver fluke itself, and so basically, when the fecal samples go away, basically what they're looking for in the laboratories is the liver fluke eggs, and it's only the adult fluke that can lay these eggs. And for the adult fluke, basically it starts out as early immature and then immature and mature. That takes 10 to 12 weeks within the animal. So that's either a sheep or an animal. So the animal has to, the eggs are basically laid by adult fluke. And then they go out and hatch out in the grass. But so basically, going back to your question there, so it takes 10 to 12 weeks for the immature fluke to develop into adults. So this year, farmers had to return their fecal samples to the laboratories by the 1st of October. So in a lot of cases, liver fluke wouldn't be old enough in the animal to actually lay eggs. So even though farmers are getting back negative results, and I spoke to James Drain and Inishowen Co-op this morning, they sent samples away for over 200 farmers in the Inishowen area, and none of the results that came back showed liver fluke as a problem. Now, and that's because the fecal samples were sent back too early. If those farmers were to send fecal samples away maybe in early December, they might find that the results that they get back is a lot different. So it's down to timing when the fecal results or fecal samples are taken. You just can't look at the fecal results on their own. There's other indicators there, and the department do each year they do the Aldershot Summer Index, and it basically shows the incidence of liver fluke in a particular area, and basically figures of less than 300 would show that little or no disease is present. Figures between 300 and 400 would show occasional losses, and then any figures then above 400, the disease is prevalent. And if you look at the northwest, if you get into that publication by the department there, the whole northwest, Sligo, Leitrim, Donegal, Clare, Galway, Mayo, they're all very high, and it's down to basically rainfall and temperature.
You mentioned it there, Gary, if it's going to take 10 to 12 weeks until these adult liver fluke show up in fecal samples, this year is going to be slightly different, especially with some cows only housed in the last 6 or 8 weeks before calving. So what do you advise for these farmers?
Yeah, look, very good question. And suppose this is the thing that comes up, and a lot of farmers are confused. And look, this is where I sort of said before, look, the liver fluke it is a complicated life cycle. There's 3 stages in the life cycle. There's early immature, immature, and adult. So the first thing you need to remember is if you want to take out all stages of the liver fluke, you have to take out all stages of early immature, immature, and adult fluke. So, and there's certain products there, okay, and there's 7 currently. There's 7 active ingredients to control liver fluke on farms. But not all of the active ingredients out there control all the different stages of liver fluke. Some products will take out all 3 stages. Some products take out 2 stages, and other products only take out the adult fluke. So what I always say to farmers is, look, there's a plethora of different products out there on the market that control parasites, and it's the same with liver fluke. But it's using the correct product at the correct time at the correct rate. Okay, but look, in an area like Donegal, and especially along the western seaboard, I'd be saying to farmers, you should be trying to take out liver fluke. Maybe early immature, but you should be definitely trying to take out fluke at the immature and adult fluke. And you need to, there's no point in using a dose that's only effective against adult fluke and using it, a week after housing. So if you're going to use a product that controls, say, all stages of fluke, cattle have to be indoors for a minimum of 2 weeks. If you want to use a product that's effective against early immature and mature fluke only, cattle need to be housed at least 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the product. And then if you only want to control adult fluke, your cattle have to be housed a minimum of 10 to 12 weeks before those products are effective. And a way of finding out, now, I suppose farmers that are selling weanlings won't know this, but farmers, if you're slaughtering animals in a meat factory, or say cows, steers, or heifers, you get reports back from Animal Health Ireland, beef check reports that'll show you if you have if there's liver fluke present on the animal that's been slaughtered. So it's a very effective way of finding out, if the product you're using is doing what it's supposed to be doing. But it could be down to the farmer using the product at the incorrect time as well.
Yeah, Gary, I suppose from the beef health check reports, we still see a high percentage of livers in the meat processing factories from house cattle showing live adult liver fluke in them.
Yeah, listen, I've seen that in Donegal as well, and farmers using very good products, and and that's, again, it's just down to it, look, an education, and the farmers maybe don't fully understand, and especially if someone buying in cattle, if they buy cattle in at different stages, the liver fluke and the cattle coming from different farms could be at different stages, depending when the animal was exposed to that particular parasite. So just taking blanket treating animals at a specific date, doesn't necessarily mean, because you could be using a product that's quite effective against early immature and mature fluke, but doesn't take out early immature. So basically, you use your product, but the early immatures then over time will mature into adult fluke. And when they come to slaughter, you're slaughtering animals that have live fluke in them. So basically, look, it's a matter of, as I sort of said before, and farmers sometimes get tired of me telling them, but it's using the product at the correct time and at the correct rate to take. And you shouldn't have, when you're slaughtering cattle, you should not be finding live fluke in animals. But I know I read somewhere that up to 13% of animals, and especially in this part of the world, are still being found with live fluke in them.
Gary, in recent years, there's been a significant increase in the prevalence of rumen fluke.
It's an area that has gathered a lot of traction, I would say, Catherine, but I think it's been overemphasized. Farmers seem to be more talking about rumen fluke now than they are liver fluke. And look, liver fluke is still the parasite that's going to do the most damage. Rumen fluke, clear signs of rumen fluke will be animal not thriving, ill thrift, scouring very badly. But in general cases, if animals are performing well and doing okay, generally it's not a big problem. Animals on poorly on a poor diet, etc. if they have high burdens of rumen fluke, it definitely will affect them. But look, I've seen it up here. There would be farmers using products to control rumen fluke, but I'd be putting liver fluke ahead of when you speak to the vets on that as well. And funny enough, a lot of the beef fecal samples coming back were showing positive for rumen fluke and negative for liver fluke. So it was giving farmers maybe that they had a problem with rumen fluke and not liver fluke, but in generally it'll be the other way around. Like, you're going to find, when you test for rumen fluke anyway, you're going to find it. You're always going to find it in most animals anyway in the rumen, but it's not a disease that's causing a lot of problems on farms that I find anyway.
Yeah, well, I suppose with 7 active ingredients that you've mentioned to treat liver fluke, what actions should farmers be taking now?
Look, Catherine, the first thing I would look at, you need to look at the farm itself. Okay, if it's a dry, free draining farm, no rushes, it's the incidence of liver fluke in that farm will be a lot lower than a farm. Like, I was on a farm at the end of last week, and very wet, a lot of rushes. And then when I looked at the cattle inside in the shade, you looked at the land outside, you looked at the cattle inside, you looked at the conditioner, and you say, well, now these are cattle that are definitely in need of a liver fluke dose. While you go out onto another farm, a lot of free draining land, drier, the incidence on liver fluke on a farm like that will be lower. But still, you need to look at the farm history. Has a farmer killed cattle in the last number of years? What's the prevalence of liver fluke on those reports? And again, farmers are not aware of those reports. No, they're like a traffic light system. If they're scored 1, 2s, and 3s for liver fluke, so basically a 1 is scored green. Score 2 is basically where the liver is damaged, but there's no live fluke. So basically, a farmer could have bought in stock, or basically he's used a product to kill the fluke, but the damage is done to the liver. Okay, but there's no liver fluke there. And then the red on the beef health check report is basically a 3, and that's basically animals will be red in color. Suppose, look, I'd be look at the history of the farm, and look at other available data. Look at the AHI reports, and has the farmer had a problem in the past with fluke? So every year is different. Every year is different in terms of, like, even this year, I was looking there this morning at the average temperatures. Like in Donegal this year, in Mallinhead, the average temperature for October was 1.5 degrees higher than the long-term average. Now, that's very unusual. So we've had a very mild back end. July, August, September was half the rainfall compared to normal, but then October was twice the normal rainfall. So every year is different. So you have to, just because something, you had a problem in the previous year with a particular problem, doesn't, so take all factors into account. So use the farm history, look at the stock, look at the land type, look at the health reports that come back, and come up with a plan to treat the fluke on your farm. And as I sort of said earlier, look, there is 7 active ingredients out there. They're all effective, but they need to be used at the correct time. And look, for most farmers, I'd be sort of saying, and especially in Donegal and the northwest and the west of the country, I'd be trying to take fluke out before. I wouldn't be waiting 10, 12 weeks before I'd be treating for fluke. I'd be trying to take fluke out 6 to 8 weeks after housing.
If farmers want to get further information on fluke, where can they find it?
There's a lot of very good information for farmers, and very farmer-friendly information on the Animal Health Ireland website. So that's www.animalhealthireland.ie. And if they go into that there and click on cattle information, and then basically they'll see in the middle of the screen, sort of click on beef health check, scroll down there, and you'll see there that Dr. Natasha Menu has a very good short video there on the beef health check and where to find it on the ICBF website. There's a lot of other videos there as well in relation to other parasites on farms. I think there's nearly up to 50 videos there on the animal health website. So very farmer friendly videos. Most of them done by vets and practitioners out there. So very farmer friendly information. And again, I sort of said there, the liver fluke forecast there is on the department website there as well. So there's plenty of information there, Catherine, and where to get good information about controlling liver fluke.
That's great, Gary. I'll include the links in the podcast text. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Gary for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan and thanks for listening.